From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, the world, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And we are here to talk Star Wars news, breaking news from a long time ago. That could be Friday, could be Sunday, could be breaking news this morning. We got the Skeleton Crew composer, Mick Chiquito, finally announced, but we'll have time to discuss that on our Skeleton Crew preview episodes. We are going to be looking at some of the big news, like I said, before we get to that, and explain why Joseph's here from another studio. I want to remind you today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from, as always, for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Today we're recommending Bloodline by Claudia Gray, a political thriller, a story of resistance. We can't recommend it enough. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, it's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. I want to chat with you a little bit, Joseph, but we also have an ask, which is key to our existence.
That is right. We are building to 420 patrons on Patreon, paid patrons. We reached 415 a little while back, and we unlocked a goal of doing a private live stream, which we've had lots of fun joking about the word private. But we will be getting back to that. We also want to ask that you follow us on Blue Sky. We've been asking for a while, but hey, Blue Sky is finally taking off. It is fulfilling the prophecy that at least I personally have felt for it for months. Threads is, hey, if you like it, you like it. Okay. Also owned by another dangerous billionaire, in my opinion. And Blue Sky is, hey, you know what? It's just the people you follow in the order they say things. What a novel concept. So find us on Blue Sky.
I give you and Ken Plume, our buddy Ken Plume, credit for championing Blue Sky when no one else was going there. I find the lack of the algorithm comforting, but also weird because I've scrolled a few times and been like, I've already seen this. That was Friday. Oh, wait. It's in order.
Yep.
Yeah, we are over there. Before we dive into news, a couple things real world. But yeah, Joseph, I think people know if you've been listening to ForceCenter here for a bit, Joseph's been putting together a feature film, and he is in the process of getting ready to shoot that. It's very close. Joseph, I'm personally thankful you're here today on a busy time.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I've missed doing ForceCenter very, very much, and I'm extremely lucky to be doing the film. And I want to thank everybody who's been so very supportive of it in all sorts of different ways. Yeah, today as we record, it's Monday, and a week from now we will be filming. So it is just a tremendous amount of work, which is why I unfortunately can't be around for the next several weeks of ForceCenter. But I'm really happy to be here today.
And we should also acknowledge that Jennifer, on the day of time of recording, it's Veterans Day. Thank you all to the veterans out there. And Jennifer, that means it's a different school schedule, so she couldn't record today. We're going to all three be in the same virtual studio very soon. Enough. We always do life adventures at this point with Joseph's work schedule, getting this film prepped. We're not going to have a super long news episode today, but we do want to address what's going on out there. Last week was the general election here in the United States of these Americas, and it's been a trying week. In the past, way past, ForceCenter might have said, hey, Star Wars and then life kept creeping up closer and closer, and now we're kind of both. And the only thing I think I from my point, I'll start here, Joseph, not to go in the weeds on it today on this episode, but we will. ForceCenter has always been a Star Wars podcast. Now pop culture, more things, other center. We're going to look at other movies in the future, that kind of thing. We have looked at the James Bond films, all that stuff. But it's a Star Wars podcast. We're here to discuss that. But I think going forward, it's always going to remain that. But when the politics pour out of it, and we're not necessarily saying, hey, the real world politics are going to lead the conversation. But when the politics pour out of Star Wars, something that's been political since before the movies even hit. A lot of people were sharing the prologue from the New Hope novelization this weekend. That came out before the movie. And if you read that, it's essentially about the Nixon era administration, but it's the basis for a lot of George Lucas's politics. Star Wars politics are very clear. So if it pours out of the conversation, we're not going to shy away from it. Now, we know not everyone will like that on a lot of sides. Some of you just might not align with us, and that's okay. We've lost a lot of those listeners over the years. We're fine with that. We hope you're fine with that too. But also some people, just might be reeling from the last week, and they might just want to talk Gungans. They might want to just talk Ewoks. So we'll acknowledge when we're about to maybe go places. We'll work that out between the three of us. We're on the same page. I am not here to Monday morning quarterback the last week, the elections, and I'm here to just say a lot of people are hurting, a lot of people are in fear, a lot of people are frustrated, a lot of people are angry. But we're here, we're going forward as best we can here in ForceCenter. So stay tuned is all I can say for more conversations. Joseph, that's my
Yeah,
thoughts. I don't want to
those
speak
are
for you.
those are great thoughts, and you said them so succinctly, and you have really raised the bar.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joseph, it was a good shower practice session today.
I only got halfway through my shower speech on this, and then shifted to a different speech entirely. Anyway, yes, I really agree with everything you're saying. I think we've always we haven't shied away from politics because we think they're bad to talk about. It's because we've wanted to be able to give people a place where Star Wars can be political and it can be escapism. It can be both. It is both, in my opinion. And we can have our fun episodes where we do so yup yum yum versus the celebration song. But Star Wars is at its core political, and a lot of times we try to walk the line of, well, let's talk about the politics in theory and not spend a lot of time drawing one-to-one parallels to the real world. I think we're in a period where that's going to be difficult for me. Even in this episode, we're going to talk about Andor season 2, which is a deeply political show that has been announced right after a deeply political event. I have no need to Monday morning quarterback the entire election either. The things I'll say that are important to me, because I think they relate to Star Wars and I think they relate to what we've done on ForceCenter, is one of the big threads of politics in Star Wars is people not taking the threat of the loss of democracy and the threat of a leader who is going to inflict pain on part of the population for their own gain, and who is willing to pay attention to that and who is willing to take action. I'm not drawing any one-to-one comparison about violent action that happens in Star Wars to our real world. I'm just talking about the sort of spirit of Luke Skywalker saying, it's all so far away from here, and Obi-Wan saying, that's your uncle talking. The idea that we do have the power and that we should be engaged, and that we can say something is dangerous, something is a threat, while also finding moments of joy, while also finding moments of empathy and connection. That's an important thing to say to me. And then the other thing I'll say, that's about Star Wars. I think the thing about ForceCenter in the world that we live in, the ecosystem that we live in, that we've talked about before, we often just want to talk about Star Wars, and sometimes it is just Star Wars. Did Greedo shoot first or not? That's just Star Wars. But so much of discussion of pop culture, of stories, did you like this one, did you not, which character is your favorite, has been infiltrated on purpose by bad actors who want to drive hate, not just for money. Money's one thing, but as we've seen in this election, and we've seen some of the results of why people voted, because they're exposed to only information sources that are lies or half-truths at best. And we encounter that while talking about pop culture. We'll see a headline that's not quite accurate, maybe borderline an actual lie, and that just gets spread around, and people who want to benefit from your theory run with what isn't true. So I think we are in great danger of becoming a post-truth society where truth just doesn't matter because louder, more profitable voices are gaining power from selling lies that make you mad, that get them money. And that is a political reality. But pop culture discussion, going back to Gamergate, has been a testing ground for this. And we've talked many times, and I think everybody who is an ardent supporter of ForceCenter is on the same page of, don't just get mad at the headline. Read the whole thing. Check the sources. If it makes you mad, ask why someone wants you to be mad. Ask if this is about Greedo shot first, or is this about gay women shouldn't have Star Wars shows? Where is the critique coming from? And final thing is just empathy. Star Wars is so much about empathy. We try our best to be about empathy and lots of different perspectives here. And I think that's only going to be more important going forward.
Well said. Agree with that. And right there with you on all those big key issues. My favorite online historian, Matt Beat, calls this the misinformation age. not the first to say it, but he talks about it a lot in his videos, and I think we're in it. Which is also one of the things we want to do here. When we look at Star Wars headlines, what's actually going on? We break it down, we talk, we don't just react, we discuss. So that's where we are right now. We'll let Jennifer, of course, speak for herself when she returns to the show, but we're all three aligned on what we want to do here going forward. With that, sir, are you ready for the news?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Are you ready for the movie-making news? You're in the throes of this as well. But first, let's go to some good news. It was not a surprise that it was revealed, but a good, pleasant surprise that we got the information when we did. Andor had its release date revealed at D23 Brazil. D23 Brazil took place this week and brought with it some audience-only sneak peeks at The Mandalorian and Grogu. The descriptions sounds similar to what we've seen before, at least. A full skeleton crew scene. But the big news was the second season of Andor, a Star Wars story, is on the way to us this spring. The 12-episode second season will air April 22nd, 2025. Probably 2 episodes. That part I couldn't find specifically. But it will most likely premiere at Star Wars Celebration Tokyo for those in attendance. So congratulations to those who are going to Tokyo. Good to see it. Joseph, let's start here. Just general thoughts on the release date and what we're looking forward to with another, with Andor's return at the moment it's coming back, this moment in time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's nice to give a pop to people attending Celebration. Many people making a big trek and giving them something really exciting and fun to talk about is awesome. I think that release date, this does feel earlier for them to not just go spring or April, but to actually say, hey, April 22nd. Maybe put some billboards up that they then have to change like they did for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who knows? But that's some good confidence and probably won't shift since it is set up with Star Wars Celebration. So that's great. In terms of just, looking forward to Andor's return at the moment, it's, sometimes poetry at rhymes is not fun. But I am still of the opinion that Rogue One would have been a smash hit sensation regardless of when it was released. But the fact that it was released after a difficult election when people had things on their mind of Saw Gerrera and Jyn Erso's, doesn't it bother you to see the Imperial flag flying? And, it doesn't bother me if you don't look up, paraphrasing. In that same holiday season, La La Land came out. And I understand it's a total subjective thing about whether or not you enjoy the film La La Land. But I felt like people hated La La Land with a passion. They loved Rogue One and they despised La La Land. And I think La La Land, in my opinion, is a good film about incredibly beautiful, talented, sexy people who don't have everything they want. And I feel like there was this like perfect capturing of the way real life impacts storytelling and how we respond to it, of like, this ain't the time for Ryan Gosling to have a slightly bad day. This is a time for a diverse group of people to give everything they have for freedom and justice. And so my mind can't help but go back to that synergy of when Rogue One came out with Andor season 2. If they, if it was Skeleton Crew, it'd be like, it was releasing at this time, it'd be like, it's another Star Wars story. But Andor coming out now, the most political Star Wars show in terms of just the volume of political content. It's I think people are going to be in the mood for gritty, determined people fighting for freedom.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and La La Land is popular in our house. As someone who's engaged to a Arizona redhead who moved to LA to chase her acting dreams. I, unfortunately for her, and not Ryan Gosling, though we do go to the smokehouse where he, of course, was fired in that movie. As far as release date, I love what you said too. That hey, give these wonderful folks attending D23. There's without a doubt Western egocentrism at play when it comes to some of these conventions. I think a lot of us, I'm not saying you, me, Jennifer, but just in general, overlook like, D23 in Brazil. It's very well attended. And there's a reason Disney does it, and they send a lot of big guns when they can, and or videos like John and Dave popping in because they're on the set and they couldn't get down there. Pedro Pascal showing up there in the past, everything. They had B2 Emu out there speaking the language there. Like, it's important, and it's a worldwide phenomenon, Disney and Star Wars. And I love what you're saying there, Joseph, about let's just not throw up a thing and say coming in the spring. Let's give them a date. Let's tell them. Let them be the news source. And when this first broke out, there was something like, I think on Disney Plus, there was on Disney Plus Brazil or something, there was a key art thing was, and people were like, "Oh, it was leaked." It wasn't necessarily leaked. It just was announced at D23 Brazil, and I think that's a good thing. And I like that you highlighted there as well. As far as what I'm looking forward to, look, I'm still very much looking forward to Skeleton Crew. I think it will have the fun vibe that is, will say, is okay to want right now too. I'm talking about taking care of yourself and just in terms of Star Wars of the last year or so, I'm looking more and more forward to that show. I can't tell you, my excitement for Andor shot through the roof when I found that it's coming. It's coming around my birthday. I'm so excited. And Andor's a weird show for me. We'll have more discussions about this. I love the show, but I often find myself in real life in arguments against the show because of the history of discourse around the show, how I think it was used even by its creator. So another quote this week by Gilroy that annoyed the hell out of me, but we'll get into that another time. But it's often used against other Star Wars, and we don't need that. We don't need to do that. So all that kind of left me. I'm going to start my Andor rewatch soon. I'm going to start soaking it all in, and I can't wait. And I just got a wave of Star Wars excitement, and also we'll get into it, but like, Star Wars excitement for, this is something that, especially by then when the dust has settled and the emotions have maybe become more focused, and I say that meaning like it's right over the last week or so to be a little like, I think this will be the right time going forward for the next 4 years. So, Joseph, what are you expecting to take away from this season? But Star Wars is always political, as we keep saying, and that almost becomes its own catchphrase and buzzwords. But Andor's first season put its politics front and center. No bones about it. All right, in a way that maybe George Lucas would have liked to have done. Though, if you look at the prequels, I think it's pretty front and center. But in this modern age, Andor put it front and center. The second season promises to be no different. So, Joseph, what are you expecting to take away from this season during such an important and politically charged time?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I agree with what you were saying earlier about loving the show Andor, but then sometimes feeling like you're spending more time being sort of fighting the agitation that other people use it as a cudgel against other kinds of Star Wars. Yeah. And I like pulpy Star Wars. I like fun Star Wars, and I like gritty political Star Wars. And I think Andor is incredibly well written and incredibly gritty and political. And I think we've talked about I don't think there's anything new politically in Andor that Star Wars hasn't said before. It's just, Lucas had a balance in the prequels of like, I really want to say these things about how fragile democracy is. But then also I want a funny alien in the background, and I don't want a fun chase because he wanted to do both. And Andor's like, we'll give you a Dewey and Freedy once every 12 episodes. The rest, it's just dirty socks and sadness. Suck it up. It's
scob the Empire and suck it up.
It's all gritty almost all the time, and maybe there'll be a little bit more pulp and all that. But I'm with you that I'm glad that we've gotten lots of different kinds of Star Wars storytelling. I love that Acolyte focused on Jedi, Force, that side of the philosophy, and I'm ready. I think I'd be ready anyway to go back to Andor. But in terms of this politically charged season that we're in, both in Andor and in real life, I think, I think that what Andor has done in more detail than Star Wars has done before is get into the tools of oppression of how do the powers that want to hold on grind people down. They try to keep people separate. They try to keep people not having all of their needs met. They try to keep control of the media so people can't question things. All those things kind of laid out so well by Nemec. So I think the second season of Andor is going to grind down into those things even more. And frankly, I think it's quite possible that we'll be experiencing, I think we already are, and we'll be experiencing more viscerally by April, some of those tactics in real life. and I think it will make Andor feel even more visceral. I think another thing that Andor has done really well, and I think will only accelerate on, is the contrast between where is this fight for freedom happening. Andor takes like hope in fighting for freedom and gets real literal about it. And one of the arenas is the very, very rich, the society on Coruscant, where like we don't really care if the Empire is putting its boot on the neck of the whole rest of the galaxy. Everything's great here because we're rich. Taxes are great under Palpatine. So I think we're going to walk those halls and see the fight for institutions holding up beliefs by Mon Mothma. And then we see the battle waged in the dirt and the muck by the very, very impoverished by the Empire, like Cassian. And in particular, the second season, I think, is going to dive into even more of Cassian's morality in this fight, because we know that he ends up in Rogue One feeling like, I've done a lot of things I wish I didn't have to do. I've had to use a lot of the tools of the enemy in order to try to defeat the enemy, and I need it to be worth something. And it's beautiful that he ends, by making a connection with Jyn and by comforting her and reassuring her and believing in her and saying this wasn't just about some big war. This is about family, and that he gets to this place. And I think this second season of Andor is going to be him having to make a lot of awful choices, things that he does in the fight that are not morally pure from his perspective. Rogue One and Andor can be hard to talk about in terms of any connection to the real world, because I want to be very clear. I'm not making a one-to-one comparison. The story of Star Wars, of Rogue One, of Andor is a story of political violence. And I am not advocating violence in the real world. I think Star Wars believes violence is an absolute last resort. And I think this season will wrestle with that, of the galaxy feels like they are at a place where they have reached the last resort. And within that last resort, that tragic last resort of violence, how much of yourself are you going to lose in the fight? And again, I want to be really clear. I think a lot of the ideas in Andor are applicable to different ways we might fight, in terms of petitions, demonstrations, giving to funds, listening to people in pain of how we can best help them, mobilizing, not just saying it's far away and not my problem. I think Andor will have a lot of those kind of things to say. Andor will also be saying it in a story of violence. And I'm not comparing those two things directly, but I'm comparing the ideas behind standing up for freedom and democracy.
Yeah, as always, well said, and highlighting a couple things, a couple of the ideas in there that I really like season 1 of Andor, even though timeline wise, canon wise, 10 years in, I don't know, I forget, 7 years in. Not concerned about the canon timeline right now, but Andor season 1 has this, like, this isn't really happening, right? Like, I can still go get Pisos on Niamos, right? I don't need to join the fight. I'm not here. It doesn't affect me. No matter how I look like, know what I look like and what I believe in, everything, I'm fine if I can find a spot to be fine in. And I think the show is kind of it's a boot to the face saying it is here.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And this second season, as that we know in the Star Wars story, we know that the show itself, 12 episodes, is going to take a year for every chunk of 3 episodes, right up to Rogue One. We know Rogue One. We know the Star Wars story. We know the fight for hope. We know the battle plan. We know all the details. But to get there, it's going to be that it not only is it here, like you said, it's all around you, and it's real, and it's in your face. And what are we going to do about it? And making it, finding it. Finding the good of it all, as we know where Cassian ends. I think you and I have discussed in the past of the granule is Saw Gerrera right? Is Mon Mothma right? Is Luthen Rael right? They're all trying to fight their own way, and they're all trying to find, and they all believe in their own right. But I think we'll get into that as the episodes go on. But overall, it'll be, it's here, it's over us, it's over everybody, and here's how we actually fight back. And I'd be interested to track that. I'm curious. I'm excited about some of the characters coming. But for right now, what I'm expecting to pull out of it is, I'm not, again, it's dangerous to say a playbook because one-to-one comparisons are always, I remember even Rogue One during that era, I was kind of like, and I was a little less active, let's just say back then, but I was a little like, but okay, hold on, is this what we're doing? Okay, we're taking a strike team down to Scarif? Okay. But I think that'll be what will be powerful about it. One of the things Gilroy said, and I'm pulling apart, this could be an old quote, but it was in Variety this weekend around the announcement of the story of just like him saying, I wanted to do a story of the people on the ground, the cooks, the chefs, the waiters, the mechanics, and how the oppression hits them. Great, love that. He then went on to kind of say like, and it was more realistic than the other things. Not incorrect, but his tone behind it was a little trouble for me. But see, again, I found myself attacking Andor even though I love the show. But to his point, I think he's so right because we're going ground up. And season 1 was that, but season 2 is going to show the actual steps forward, I think.
Yeah. Watch it just be a fun romp now. It's just just bits with K2SO for 12 episodes.
And the final the thought here is, as we draw to a close on this Andor conversation, the show is now branded a Star Wars story. This, of course, harkens back to 2016 and even 2017 with Rogue One and Solo. It also provides clarity in marketing, but it can also represent, if only in our minds, a more robust second season full of, quote, more Star Wars. So, Joseph, thoughts on this being a Star Wars story?
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised at all to have it be the same balance as season 1 of Andor that had, the cool ship moment with Luthen,
Right.
The cool ship escape, a couple weirdo aliens in the background, Dewey and Freedy. Almost as we know we need a few pews. And we need a few weirdos. So here you go. Yeah. So I think it absolutely could have that same balance. I think K2SO's presence, he was kind of doing a lot of heavy lifting of any sort of comedic relief in Rogue One. I think there are other funny beats for sure. Don't want to take anything away from Chirrut. But I do wonder if it might be any number of the creatives involved go like, Andor's really solid. Its politics are clear. Its grittiness is clear. We're going to see some more dirty socks. Throw in a couple more Rhodians. I wouldn't mind seeing that as we get closer to the actual rebellion, that it is, that there is a diversity of species and planets that are being subjugated, and so they're coming together. So I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that. I love it. I love it when you mash up the pulpy and the political. Give me the weirdest looking alien design you got and put them in the most deadly, serious Luthen scene you have. I want pus dripping from tusks while the most intense and on the nose political speech happens. Combine the pulp in the politics, because I think that's what Star Wars is. I would love that.
Yeah, you're making me think of how much I absolutely want a scene where it's like Mothma, Luthen Rael, Saw Gerrera, Admiral Akbar, and Admiral Raddus at the table, and it's just like Stellan Skarsgård delivers some perfectly delivered and performed line, and then you got Akbar like that's I'm dying to see that. While you were talking, I got excited. I forgot I wore my Mothma shirt today. The Brian Ward Mothma shirt, because I'm excited about this
Jedi shirt.
Jedi, Mothma, all in the same fight here, and yeah, for me, it makes a lot of sense. Look, let's talk a little business here. We know numbers are always, even though these companies, many whose CEOs are very excited about the election results over the past week. That should maybe worry you a little bit. We're looking to use Zaslav, among others. But they know down to the second what their numbers are. But we don't know. The directors, writers, and producers and everyone don't know. They tried their darndest to hold on to those numbers. We do know one thing. Andor was not watched as much as you would think for a show that was heralded and loved and got well-deserved praise. It was not watched as much. And I think could be word of mouth too was good. So I'm not here I'm not a TV business pundit at this moment with all the numbers in front of me, but I think this speaks to that to me. Andor, a Star Wars story, not unlike what they wanted to do with the film titles. Rogue One, for those that know, but a Star Wars story for those that don't. I think this is part of that as well, pushing the word out in a better way, and I like that. It's also, I know, I'm I'm nostalgic for this time, quite frankly. Of like, oh yes, Star Wars stories. I remember 2016, 17. So I like that, but also, yeah, that's why I wanted to ask this question. I do think this show has to get quote unquote more Star Wars as it literally goes up to Rogue One, because Rogue One was pretty damn Star Wars, right?
Yes.
Like that was part of the victory. It lacked the overt pulpiness, but it was there. The characters, the planets, it felt like it. I think Andor did at times too. And yes, Dewey Freedy doing a lot of heavy lifting, protecting the Squigglies and Scub of the Empire. All that stuff's there. But I think as we race towards this with Ben Mendelsohn showing back up as Krennic, we got K2SO, like you said, his energy, and who knows who else. There could be more surprises, or it could just be names. I mean, we had, I think season one, the fact that Yularen showed up was cool. Not an Easter egg, but a character, a useful, important character in the show. I think we'll see stuff like that. More direct references to Tarkin. I'm not expecting to see Vader. Don't need Vader. But he's out there doing things, and as we race closer, Tarkin, Palpatine, they're there. So we'll feel it. And I think that's part of it, part of the excitement too. It is going to be racing closer to a Star Wars film so many people love, and bridging that gap between a show that was, as often is said, it was more sci-fi than Star Wars. Whether that's true or not, that's the perspective. And I think we're going to get to where it's Star Wars all the way around.
That makes a ton of sense. And I'm with you. I'm nostalgic for a Star Wars story. I think it's sometimes had a colon problem where you couldn't, call it Solo colon Origins. I'm not advocating for that. But, Solo, Origins, Star Wars story, too many colons. But I am nostalgic for just that connection of, I don't know, a Star Wars story also, I think, gets to the thing that we're always on about of the buffet of there are many Star Wars stories and they have different tones. So if you like this one, you can move on. If you don't like this one, you can move on to the next one because it's a Star Wars story, not the Star Wars story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, I'll finish my final thoughts on this. I'm excited for Andor season 2. I sometimes am grumpy at myself for seeming to be more grumpy at Andor than I really am. I love this show. I do think it's perfection in many ways. Always, there's some things here and there I didn't like about it, but doesn't matter. I love the show. It's coming back. I can't be more excited for it right now. It's not the only Star Wars politics. I like what you said. Didn't put anything new in. I think Bad Batch was dealing with the same stuff. Star Wars Rebels was dealing with the same stuff, just to put it in a different way, and I think it's time for that. That's my final thoughts. You, Sarah, and then we'll take a break.
No, that's good. Talking about colons, that was my final thought.
Colons, everybody. Colons. Stick around for more news. We've got some potential big film news right here on ForceCenter. Welcome back to ForceCenter's Look at Star Wars News. Breaking news from a long time ago. And in this case, it was, I think, Thursday? I don't know. Hey, Simon, I almost said it like a Mike Myers character. You know my name is Simon. Simon Kinberg is set to produce a new Star Wars trilogy, ? We talked up top, Joseph, about the age of misinformation. This has been a problem in Star Wars news, or even if it is real information, the way it's delivered, the way it's digested, at times, I'll just say, has not been fair to Lucasfilm or Disney. Not that you should cry for studios. But this is one of those cases where this is not officially confirmed by Lucasfilm or Disney, but it is too big to ignore. This is not just scoopers or bloggers. Not that they can't get it right. I want to be clear. Not that they're not out there doing good work. But Deadline and Variety were the ones to report. Deadline was first report that Simon Kinberg has signed a deal to produce a new trilogy of Star Wars films. Initial reports had these films being episodes 10 through 12 and a so-called continuation of the Skywalker saga. This has since been disputed by other industry insiders. There's some other information out there about Rey's character in the film and everything. Not worried about that right now. But this is now being reported as most likely a new trilogy. As you said, Disney Lucasfilm have neither confirmed nor denied this. Simon Kinberg is a name that brings out many opinions, but he is not unfamiliar to the Star Wars world. He is credited as co-creator and writer for Star Wars Rebels and was a consulting producer on The Force Awakens. He was also, around that time, said to be writing the James Mangold Boba Fett movie that had a brief existence in 2016. Among his many credits that will bring about those opinions, he was a producer on the Kenneth Branagh-led Murder in the Orient Express. In fact, that whole series, and that first one starred Daisy Ridley. One final note I'll add, he was involved in Star Wars Rebels. He was there. He has credits all the way up through season 4, beyond just created by. It wasn't a passing through consulting. He was involved, got some writing credits late as well. But anyways, general thoughts on this news, Joseph?
Yes, and I can't remember from your notes if we're going to talk about it more, but also Kinberg involved with the X-Men series and wrote and directed one of the most maligned entries with I don't think he wrote and directed. Yeah, he was involved in Dark Phoenix. I apologize. I don't remember off the top of my head how closely he was involved, but he was involved. And I think that's another thing that people are like, Rebels,
yes,
but Dark Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, I think this is all fascinating to me in that it is from a respected trade, so I have no doubt that this conversation is happening. Whether or not it will actually materialize, whether deals have been signed, and even if deals have been signed, who knows what clauses. So I don't think, this for me is an interesting thought experiment until it becomes reality. If it were to become reality, I think Kinberg seems like a really interesting pick. I'm not too put off on did every movie he's ever touched knock it out of the park. He's done a lot of different work. He has a generally solid track record of being a writer and a producer with franchise experience and a good relationship with Lucasfilm. And I think understandably as fans, we tend to just see a name and go, what did they write? What did they direct? What did they produce? Was it good? Did I like it? And behind the scenes, it's so much more about what's the relationship with the company? What's the relationship with Lucasfilm? What's the personal relationship with Dave Filoni and Gary Beck and all those things? And also, what is the experience with handling a franchise successfully? So I think it makes sense that they're looking for this kind of person. They've had a lot of stumbles kind of going for somebody who has 1, 2, 3 movies under their belt and is emerging and then ending up kind of butting heads with them, as I think where some of the things have come from. So it makes sense that they're looking for who are people that we know who have franchise experience that we already have a relationship with.
It's funny you mentioned that too. One of the things, and I'm going to maybe regurgitate some of the same information about Kinberg's career here in this next section, but he was involved with the Fantastic Four Josh Trank project, famously, a dumpster fire of a process, and not even commenting on the movie, but just the making of. And, Trank moved into Star Wars, was announced, was sick that day at the convention, and we know what happened. I don't know the inner workings of that. My general thoughts on news before sliding on. I have to be honest, and you being so busy too in this last week or so, this whole year, getting ready for this film, Joseph, but I didn't care. And I say that honestly. I saw it and went, we're not going to do a breaking ForceCenter breaking news episode now. I'm not going live to discuss this. I don't care. Now, I do care. I'm actually excited about a certain angle of it we're going to get here in a second. But it's not just the track record. It's just the business of film. It's just we'll see. I don't even know where I'll be in that time. Those movies come out. I have to be honest about a little bit of Star Wars, not even Star Wars, just movie news malaise. Where it's got it. We'll see. I don't even know if we should be knowing this. Yeah.
No, I feel you, and it's it's been hard to just plow forward with the thing that I'm trying to make, but everybody I've talked to is like, no, we want to do this. Let's move forward. Anyway, I just looked it up. Written and directed by Simon Kinberg, Dark Phoenix. Yes. Yeah. My other big reaction to this that made me feel like, cool, great, talk to me again in 5 years was. They've got a pretty full slate that they straight up announced, and you and I were lucky enough to physically be in the room at the Star Wars Celebration in London. Those 3 films were announced, and for myself as a fan, I really, really, really want the Rey movie. I don't want anything to derail that. and I want it to be the next film after Mandalorian and Grogu. That's my personal desire. I can understand if maybe the Mangold Dawn of Jedi movie doesn't happen, or it transforms into a Disney Plus series or whatever. I think that's the one that's a little bit like, that'd be cool. It's a new era, a new time frame. The sort of Lucasfilm curse of having a director having a project announced when they're hot and then having a stumble. We here do not think the Indiana Jones movie by James Mangold is a stumble. But many other people did. So Mangold's, anyway, you know what I mean? Yes. And then the Filoni movie that they announced is like the Thrawn versus the New Republic. They've started that story and they have to finish it. Whether it ends up being a film, or is this the first Disney Plus release, or it's limited release in theater, goes straight to streaming, or turns out to be an epic, 4 2-hour movie of the week special on Disney Plus, who knows? But they have these 3 movies that they have that Lucasfilm has announced. So when I saw a trilogy, I'm like, cool. Let me check in with you in 2036. See if we can all still breathe the air, if we're on fire or underwater from climate crisis. And then I would love to see these Simon Kinberg movies. Great choice.
Yes. Let me make sure I'm not fighting Baron Trump and his election campaign. I'm with you. That was just the cut of the week. And it's throw in a quick dumb sports analogy, particularly football. If a team has a big win on, say, Monday Night Football, it's a big emotional win. Often they lose on the next Sunday. That's the hot team coming in. We got a new project. You're all going to love this film. Oh no, we've collapsed a little bit. Where a lot of times you get your butt kicked, you come back stronger. I kind of like. I'm not going deep into analysis. I kind of like that Kinberg's not coming in hot. He's like, I just got my butt kicked a little bit. Let's figure this out. I got a track record. I'm a winner, but we lost. Sometimes, maybe.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, hey, quite frankly, maybe even other areas as well, but that's another conversation for maybe another show. But to repeat some of the stuff leading up, I'm kind of showing my math here, Joseph. Bear with me. Kinberg was part of the brain trust said to be developing the Star Wars universe for 7, 8, and 9. That might be forgotten a little bit. I'll share one little party story from 2014. I was at a holiday party in 2014. I think Force Awakens trailer had been out, and a friend of mine who was very much in the know, we were at the party, he points to a table. Simon Kinberg was at the table, and he goes, that's the guy that's going to be leading Star Wars forward for the next 10 years. That was kind of the prevailing thought. Whether or not that came to pass, the Fantastic Four stuff, who knows? But this is Rebels had already come out, so he had been there working with the team. And I just remember that conversation. There's Simon Kinberg. That's the guy that's going to be running Star Wars for the next 10 years. Not over Kathleen Kennedy, but just that. She's the studio head. He's kind of got some of the Star Wars stuff going on. Didn't come to pass. Do not know why. Do not know how real those whispers were in my ear. But that's kind of in the way back Star Wars news cycle, like a lifetime ago. So I say that out there. And as we said, he worked closely with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck on creating Star Wars Rebels. They obviously, as we now know, are both very high-ranking executives within Lucasfilm. Despite some of his work being maligned by fans, like you said, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't have a lot of stake in the Dark Phoenix game, but that has come up many times via text and posts on social media this weekend. He has been, as you said, been behind many financially successful studio films and has that studio producer skill set as well as a writer-director mindset. So naturally, these potential 3 new films, a new trilogy, feels connected to this era of Star Wars. But Joseph, this crossed my mind and it kind of got me excited for the news. And I don't even know if I'm right. I kind of wanted you to counsel me. We'll see. But could these films serve as an introduction to Star Wars fans not even born yet? This is a proposed trilogy that, to me, is not exactly a soft reboot of the franchise, but a dawn of a new era. If this comes out, if they start rolling out in 2036, like you and I are saying, we're talking about this is hey, how do we go forward in this era? Are they looking that far ahead? I don't know if it's that kind of chess. I'm just saying, could these films be more of a new generation of Star Wars storytelling? Do we need that as a follow-up question? And does that perspective change? Does that change your perspective on the news stories, as it kind of did mine?
Yeah, no, I was really happy when I read this question in the rundown because this idea, because I think it's a really great idea. I think I've had some conversations with some friends our age, generally middle age, generally grew up with the original trilogy. And they always like to say, well, Star Wars doesn't work anymore because it has nothing left to tell us, which I always disagree with, because I do think there are new ideas even in stories of legacy characters like Obi-Wan. I think there are new ideas in the sequels. But I also understand that perspective, that if you were a child in the 70s and the 80s, or, even the 90s and the 2000s, and these ideas of, mixing the pulp and the political and basic ideas of hope and friendship and how easy it is to succumb to your fear and fall down a dark path, but you can always make a better choice and turn around. All of those kind of core ideas that are always in Star Wars. I can see somebody a little bit older going like, well, they told the story again. And for me, I feel like it's understandable that you feel that way from your perspective, but somebody's always reading Dickens for the first time, somebody's always watching their first rom-com. Somebody's always watching their first raunchy comedy. Somebody has their first cast of Saturday Night Live. The idea that we tell stories in a cyclical nature, because they're not just for the people who've experienced all the stories before, they're for the people who are experiencing the story for the first time. That's really exciting to me. And it's really exciting to say, what are the core ideas of the original trilogy? And we're not going to worry about any nods or Easter eggs. This is about, what are the core ideas? Now, how do you present them in this era? When people are struggling with climate crisis and disinformation and isolation and loneliness, I think Kylo got into that in his trip to the dark side and back. But how do you take some of those ideas and, without making them one-to-one with the real world, saying, all these problems you're facing, there's hope, and tell that in a coming of age story. And it isn't Star Wars again. It's these core deep ideas that were not original to Star Wars, told for a new generation, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it here. And we keep joking with 2036. We're just throwing that out there, but it's just keep running with that, since it's the theme of our episode. Let's say the first Simon Kinberg written, produced, whatever film is that year. We're over 20. We're about 21 years from Force Awakens, meaning the fans that got something out of Kylo and Rey and Finn and Poe and any of the new stories, different from even us, different from even the prequel kids. They're going to kind of be our age. And there's one, little rumor there, or side story through this, was like, oh, the character of Rey would be the Obi-Wan in the series. Look, you could blindly throw a dart at a dartboard and maybe hit and get that right with that news story. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad or dumb. I'm just saying, well, of course, yes, that would make sense if they wanted to do that. But let's just say that is the case. Then the 2015 kids, they're going to have to deal with the same things that our generation had to deal with, of like, oh, that hero that inspired me is in a different position, has made different decisions, and I like that. It's now this as the generations roll on, and then you're going to have, like you said, a new set of kids, a new set of, and we say kids, but it could be anyone. We know people in their 20s and 30s. I even know one in her 40s. I know of one, and not friends with her, who a writer who kind of famously was like, Last Jedi was my first Star Wars film. Like,
wow,
this happens. And so I think there's something about that of looking ahead. It's natural just to be like thinking in our kind of time right now. We got the Rey movie, we got the New Jedi Order, we got, is it episodes 10, 11, 12? And it might be. Who knows if it's 10, 11, 12? Skywalker Saga is a great marketing tool. It's the Star Wars saga, so slap some numbers on there. I don't care. I don't need the Skywalkers to be in 10, 11, and 12 to call them 10, 11, and 12. But if Rey's there, it is, in a way. So anyways, it changed my perspective a little bit from, like I said, I don't care, to, oh, okay. And I'm not saying this is about a plan or a lack of a plan. That comes up a lot. But we also, 7, 8, and 9 works for you and I a lot, a little less Jennifer, to be honest, but in terms of 9, but like we think it's emotionally connected. Emotional canon is a term we came up with because of that stuff. But yeah, hey, if there's one person overseeing this, like that conversation, I don't even conversation, something whispered in my ear in a party in 2014, if they come around to, hey, all right, we're thinking ahead, maybe let's do that. Let's have this one guy. I know the Rian Johnson trilogy's out there. I got to tell you, I think that was a pipe dream to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a consolation prize that was thrust on him, and I think there's a lot of that. Like, we're good. After we thought about it, we're good. But we'll see. He's still, every once in a while, will say, "Oh yeah," get a red carpet question about it. Anyways, round it up because I don't want to go too long under Joseph, and I think I'm just repeating myself. I just think it's a possibility about these films, and maybe we all could look at them in a different way. It is a next generation of Star Wars storytelling coming.
Yeah, I love that. I would love a classic coming of age story for the next generation because everybody deserves to have that story.
I agree with that. Every generation discovers the Beatles in their own way. All right. Final thoughts here. We can be quick on this one here. Anything about the story worry you?
It's not about worry. To me, it's totally about personal taste. I personally don't want the Skywalker saga to continue. I like the way it was wrapped up. That the idea of the Skywalkers will continue. Rey is, a legitimate Skywalker, but the original bloodline being wrapped up, I think that's a great combination of their different ideas of what family could be. So I don't have any problem with it. It's the Skywalker saga, and Rey had some kids or whatever. That'd be fine with me. I wouldn't care at all. But I just kind of feel like I think that. I like the idea that you're floating of let's go back to the core ideas and tell a new coming of age story for the next generation. But feeling like we need to have it be a Skywalker saga, we need it to have the numbers, feels like that might start getting to me close to the kinds of criticism that Lucasfilm has received a lot of playing to the classics. Give me 3 more seasons of Obi-Wan Kenobi because I think there's more story to tell with him. But from a sort of branding perspective, it's got to be the Skywalker saga, and it's got to have these numbers. I don't think it needs that, but that's a total personal, subjective taste. And if it came out like it is the Skywalker saga, and it's got old Rey, and we're all talking about who gets to play old Rey, I'd have fun doing that. And and if I'm not in fire or drowning, I'm going to go see these movies.
Yes, like I said, slap some numbers on them. I don't care, but I also think you're right. I also don't. That's why, as the news story developed, kind of first announced, wow, then this would be 10, 11, 12. It was not less exciting, but it's just like, okay, got it. That's going to create some problems. It's going to be interesting. I'm here for it. All those kind of things. It wasn't as exciting as let's look so far off in the future, but come back to that point in a second. But the only thing worry about it with me is, again, how much does one person have over it? Who's he working with? Who does he bring in? Writing, directing, if it's him behind it. I just got that sense it isn't just him doing it all. 3 films that he's writing and directing. It seems like he's has some oversight on a story going forward. Again, we don't know the details yet, but that's the thing. Are we at this point again? Right, like with the name, and so far off, and it falls off. I don't know. That it was a little bit of malaise.
Yeah, and maybe some of the Skywalker saga resistance too is, hey, what's going on with the Rey movie? And I would be very happy with just a Rey movie, but I'd be happy to see Finn again. And maybe it is, hey, we're moving ahead with this film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, but Simon Kinberg is it. But it's going to be a trilogy, and Simon Kinberg is going to help oversee the whole thing, and that's the first one in this trilogy.
Could be.
Maybe that's possible, and then it isn't 2036. I hope.
I hope indeed. Final thing, as we always like to do around ForceCenter, we try to find something in there to take away, positive, some hope, some things we like. So, what's a positive takeaway from the story for you, sir?
I think trying to build a relationship with a creator who has a great connection to Star Wars, a great connection to everybody on the Star Wars team, and really looking ahead to securing Star Wars future with somebody who is capable and desirous of being a mastermind of a long series for a long time. I think that's really great. And here's my biggest positive takeaway is, in this day and age, a trilogy is a bold move. To say ahead of time, Yeah, we know what happened to Dark Universe.
Yeah.
The Universal Monster movie. We know this thing and that thing has failed, and this thing has started and that thing has started, and just like it's what Lucas used to do. It's just like, I'm making a trilogy, no matter what. So for Lucasfilm to go, no, a trilogy.
Yeah.
It's bold. It's confident. It's back to the roots. If it indeed comes to pass.
If it indeed comes to pass, indeed. And I'm with you on that. And clearly that's what got me excited of if this is some sort of long game that I don't doubt that they've had long game in mind. And you know, I do want the tell-all book. We've always said we want our old buddy Chris Taylor, right, to follow up to his book that came out in 2015 about a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. Just a lot of it's probably not going to come out. NDAs have been signed, I'm sure. Will we ever get the true tale of Lord and Miller versus Ron Howard? No, probably not. But there's obviously a lot that has gone right, a lot that has gone wrong. I get it. And I'm not going to talk about the output, the art that's on screen. I'm talking behind the scenes. But this does, the positive takeaway for me is, if true, this I'm hitting my mic. I'm so excited. If true, it has to be beyond the 3 announced films, and also the 4th one, Mandalorian Grogu, which became announced. It has to be beyond all that. And yes, we got Taika, we got Sean Levy rumored out there still. We got Rogue Squadron still alive. Blah 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 blah. Maybe Rian Johnson does come back, and Daniel Craig is starring his Star Wars trilogy. Regardless, this is long game. It tells me that Star Wars will be here and still producing new things, perhaps even long after I'm gone. And that, as a longtime Star Wars fan like you, like Jennifer, brings me some sort of joy. And I'm happy for the next generations that will have new Star Wars to break down, tear down, and be inspired from. That's where I'm going with it.
Great.
All right. We did it, sir. We did it. A ForceCenter shorter news episode here with you and I.
Welcome to Short Center.
Well, you know, when there's 2 people versus 3, it's going to be a little shorter. But you and I love talking Star Wars, and you know, suddenly we look up and it's 2 hours. And a lot of you are always happy with those numbers. But we got to get Joseph back to making this film. We're very excited to be behind you, sir. But it's a lot of hard work, so we're going to get it there. We're out today. You can follow us on socials at ForceCenter Pod. Like I said, Blue Sky is up and running. I just signed in on my desktop. That was the big final thing. Can I sign in regularly and be on my desktop? I'm in Blue Sky myself, but ForceCenter has been there. You signed us up there a couple weeks ago, so we're there. Follow us on Blue Sky. We're on Threads as well. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're available as a podcast in a lot of spots. Just search, you'll find us. Instagram and YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, hit the video, leave a nice comment, all those wonderful things. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. We appreciate that as well. Follow me at Napzok. Go to my website, KenNapzok.com, for information on things like my radio show, upcoming comedy gigs. I even have a shop where some of my Star Wars memorabilia merchandise is up for sale there. Check that out at KenNapzok.com. Sir, where can they follow you, and still support the making of this film?
Oh, yeah. You can find me on social media at Joseph Scrimshaw. Blue Sky, in particular, is where I think I'm going to be spending some more time. I'll still be around on Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying, Threads. I'm trying.
Too, but
I'm trying, but you're not making it easy. You're not a good dance partner for me, Threads. But you can find me at Blue Sky, and a lot of people have it. Really, the floodgates have opened. It's great to see so many Star Wars fans, so many ForceCenter fans. If you want to support the film, you can give a tax-deductible donation through a great organization called Film North. There is a link to that on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. More than anything, I just want to say thanks again. Everyone has always been so supportive of ForceCenter in words, in financial ways, in kind messages, in sharing the podcast, giving us questions, all sorts of just endless support that has made this a community. And I feel like personally, I've been asking a lot to, hey, you support ForceCenter, can you take that out and support this film? Can you support my birthday show? And so many of you have, and I really want to let you know that it is deeply seen and felt and appreciated. Trying to put this film together has been a little bit of a this is your life. And one of the major groups of people who have made it possible and given me support is everyone who's been a part of ForceCenter. So I really deeply, sincerely thank you. And I'm going to miss being here for the next couple of weeks and miss talking about the first couple episodes of Skeleton Crew with you and Jennifer. But I'll be back for that 3rd episode of Skeleton Crew.
He'll be back. Support the man making art. We need to support art in this world now more than ever. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.